if anyone's watching this and you understand it, the tough part, and it's crazy how tough this initially seems. It's not really tough, but it initially seems that way. Is to not share the reason. Is to not share that past story. Like everything in you is like, tell them why, and you feel it when you consciously don't tell them why. Like it's like everything in you. You gotta tell them why. If you don't tell them why, they're not gonna understand you. They're not gonna know. They're not gonna like. And you like, what is this voice that's trying to come out? And you get to start observing it and seeing how desperate it is, and seeing that it's just trying to survive at this point. But really, like when you practice not giving into it, it changes your reality too. Even when people say these things to you, like, well, go ahead. Like you about to say something.
No, you can finish. I ain't gonna forget.
Yeah, like. So now, if somebody tells me something, I'll celebrate their wins all day. But if they're telling me a sob story, it's like I don't even react, and it's funny because I see that for a brief moment, I see them like confused, but then I'll flip it on them and say something that acknowledges how strong they really are or how much of a blessing it really was. And then like you can see the switch in them, like, yeah, stop looking at it like this painful thing. This was one of the greatest things that could have happened to you, because look where you at now. Look what you learned. Look at your wisdom. Look at who you can help. And we have to stop siding with the pain. But yeah, go ahead.
No, is this so okay? So first of all, so many different thoughts went through my head, because the other thing that comes to my mind specifically is when somebody is telling you something and you're not trying to one up them, but you're trying to say like, let me tell you what happened to me too. Like it's funny. And I'm gonna tell you a story real quick, and then I'm gonna tell you about my kids. But I've been to jail before. I've been to jail twice, right? And the times when I've been in jail are the funniest. It was the funniest thing, right? So the first time I went, bro, I still remember sitting in the holding cell, right? And in the holding cell, what people are doing is telling each other why they came, right? And so for me, I told them, hey, I came, I was speeding, blah, 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 all this good stuff, right? So after I tell my story, the next person told his story. He's like, yeah, man, I was at the corner store. And then, what happened was I was up in the store and I was doing my thing. And then they came, bro. And then I ran. And then all of a sudden they hit me with a baton. I fell, boy. And then, they got me, right? So then the next dude, right? So again, I'm not recognizing what's happening until it just starts happening. And then the next dude, he's like, yeah, bro, I was up in my crib, right? And then they came and knocked on the door. I knew it was them. They kicked that mug in, bro. I dove through the window and flipped it like on the second floor. And so as I'm listening to it, bro, like I'm hearing every story go harder and harder. And I'm like, what in the world? But it's funny that we do this, right? It's because, I'm saying we because I see everybody do it, even on the smallest things. Like, let me tell you about what happened when I was a kid. Man, one time we was throwing rocks. Man, guess what? Let me tell you one time I fell out. Like, we literally are just conditioned to just really just, let me tell you how hard it was for me more than yours. Or let me show you how much further I went more than yours. And it's a voice in you that's telling you to do that, like you said. Let's glorify that versus the other stuff, right? Now, to my kids, I have generic responses, bro. Like, and the reason why is because I know what the opposite is. Do you know what I'm saying? So, like, whenever something happens, I normally would just be like, yeah, because you go hard. Or yeah, because you just the best at that mud. Like, that's what happens when, like, yeah, it did that because that's just because you go hard. You got war wounds because you go hard. Like, it's always because of how great they are versus because that's just how it's supposed to go, right? And it's just, it's crazy. Like, you can go ahead and jump in, bro. It's tripping me out right now as I think.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Like I've and like you said, in telling those stories, I've caught myself in the middle of telling one of those stories where I'm like, man, I am embellishing this. And it's like, why am I embellishing it this hard? But it's because I'm trying to one up. I had it worse. No, I had it worse. Like we're trying to out worst each other. But then even in that though, right? Even in the telling of the story, we're getting joy from these horrible stories. So one, it shows that anything can be joyful, but it's also saying, okay, I like this bad stuff that happens to me. Come on, universe, keep bringing more bad stuff so I can joyfully share the things that I say I don't want to happen to me.
Real talk. So with that being said, that's the reason why I talked about the generic responses to my kids, because the thing that I know is, hey, I know that you're saying not acknowledge, right? And I agree with that 100%. But I also know that not acknowledging is a process. And so my comeback to that would be, for myself, would be, if I do acknowledge, make sure that it's a great response versus the pain acknowledgement. So one of them I'm not going to acknowledge. And so what I mean by that is, you know, if I was to say, yeah, man, I twisted my ankle yesterday, now my ankle is stronger, right? So just like I told y'all whenever we were running, I didn't like to say that I was sore. I would just like to say my body feels strong, because now the way that I'm thinking about it is going to change the way that I move. And so I guess what I'm suggesting is that, again, first, try not to acknowledge. Don't acknowledge it. But if you have to acknowledge it, make the acknowledgement be something that's beneficial to you versus harmful. Because my ankle is sore because I twisted it. Now you can never stop being sore. But if you say my ankle is stronger, I twisted it the other day. Now you can think more of, now I'm building up my ankle and not acknowledging the pain versus, you know. So it's a mind game that you're playing with yourself. Go ahead, Jay.
Right, and then like if you and the beautiful thing about like foregoing the cause is, if you were to twist it again, it just wouldn't matter. Like you wouldn't look for it to be a thing anymore. And the thing too is, like, we've seen so many examples of people having the same quote unquote injury, but having different reactions to it,
yeah.
and different things. Yeah, like it, but like you said, it is a process. Like even with me, there are things that I've healed because I let go of the cause, and there's things that I didn't even realize I was still holding onto because I was holding on to the cause. And it just takes practice. But I will say this: so a common misperception people have is they think that by sharing it, they're letting it go. But when you share something, you actually keep it because you give it to more people to share. So by me sharing this method, now I can see others using it too, because they understand the methodology behind it. And so they can hold me accountable when I realize, oh snap, I'm not doing this the correct way. I'm holding on to this. I'm holding on to the cause. I keep acknowledging it. Not only that, we give people opportunities every time we say, what's wrong? And that doesn't say we have to answer what's wrong with the cause, but we normally do. We say this happened, so now this effect lingers.
So I'm gonna tell you what stood out to me again earlier when you were talking about the mental part of it, or you were just talking about, you said the word dyslexic, right? And so funny enough, last night, now you said dyslexic. You also just went on to say that there are plenty of examples of people who have the exact same ailments or same things going on with them, but they respond different than other people. Now, funny enough, last night, my wife and TJ just happened to be watching this special on Tom Cruise, right? Did you know Tom Cruise was dyslexic? Nor did I, right? Now, the reason why I'm bringing it up is because, again, I'm no expert on dyslexia. I'm not saying that. I can't tell you the ins and outs of it. I don't know how challenging it is for anybody. I know, based off of maybe it was I think it was maybe the Cosby Show or something, where, you know, boys see stuff differently, backwards. It makes it harder to learn, right? But on this special, they mention it. Now, I say this because Tom Cruise is one of the biggest stars in the entire world, like, since I've been alive, since essentially, right? And not only this, on this special, all of these stars swear by Tom Cruise. Every big star swears by Tom Cruise. And the thing is, this thing that's supposedly supposed to hold you down, he's one of the biggest, most paid stars in the world. And I never knew about it. And it goes to show you that he didn't glorify it, which means he didn't give it the power to hold him back. Give it the power to stop him. Like, if anything, the thing that I got from it more than anything was, it was because I'm dyslexic. So again, like I was saying, you're giving yourself the reverse of what it would be. Because I'm dyslexic, I go harder at all of these things versus because I'm dyslexic, I cannot learn this way. Like, this man is a professional at reading scripts. Has to be. He has to be. And to me, that was the prime example of what you're talking about. And so, because of the way that he's excelled, because of them acknowledging it in the way that they acknowledge it, now people that have the same thing as him have a different way to look at what they're going through in order to try to excel. Like Tom Cruise did that, just to your point, like now you're setting the stage for somebody else. Tom Cruise is like me. I can be a professional script reader. I can be a professional, like I can do all of these things and be as successful as I want to be and not be hindered by what's being taught to me. Well, guess what? Because you're this is how you're going to learn. Go ahead, Jack.